Chapter 4: The Unwelcome Constraints. Education and Expectations. Beatrix Potter's formative years unfolded within a strict educational landscape that was emblematic of late 19th century British society. Born in 1866 into a well-to-do family, Beatrix was afforded a life of privilege, yet her early education was both limited and confining. Her parents, though supportive, imposed upon her the conventions and norms of their class, which did not always align with Beatrix's natural inclinations and aspirations. The educational institutions of her time were characterized by rigid structures and a curriculum that stifled creativity. This chapter explores how these unwelcome constraints fueled Beatrix's desire for independence, shaping her into the renowned author and illustrator we celebrate today. Beatrix's early education began at home, under the tutelage of her mother. Her parents placed great emphasis on the arts and nature, which may have sparked her lifelong fascination with the natural world. However, as was common for girls of her class, formal education was often focused on accomplishments like sewing, music, and the feminine arts, rather than intellectual pursuits. The influence of her mother's teachings was vital, introducing Beatrix to drawing and storytelling during her childhood. However, this domestic education was still limited, and as Beatrix ventured into more structured schooling, the constraints of the system became glaringly apparent. At the age of 7, Beatrix was sent to a small preparatory school. Her experiences there echoed the restrictive atmosphere typical of educational establishments of the time. The curriculum was primarily aimed at preparing boys for academic pursuits, while girls were expected to engage in rote learning and proper etiquette. The disparity in educational opportunity became frustratingly evident to Beatrix. She longed for a school that celebrated curiosity and creativity, but was instead confronted with a curriculum that discouraged originality and emphasized compliance. The tension between her imaginative spirit and the demands of a misguided educational system fostered within her a burgeoning sense of rebellion and independence. The limitations of Beatrix's education were exacerbated by societal expectations of women in the Victorian era. Young girls were often groomed for roles as wives and mothers, with little encouragement given to intellectual pursuits or professional aspirations. Beatrix felt the pressure of these expectations keenly, particularly given her artistic talents and scientific interests. Nature was her refuge, and she often sought solace in the woods and fields near her family's estate in the Lake District. Here, she could immerse herself in the natural world, sketching the flora and fauna around her. These experiences outside the classroom contrasted starkly with her schooling, revealing to Beatrix the richness of life that lay beyond societal expectations. As Beatrix grew older, she continued to grapple with the constraints placed upon her. After her family relocated to Kensington, her education took on a more formal structure, but the same limitations persisted. The schools she attended were steeped in tradition and fundamentally ill-suited to her vibrant personality and creative inclinations. The rigidity of the classroom stifled her desire for exploration and her craving for a more expansive worldview. In this environment, Beatrix felt increasingly alienated, and the experience underscored her yearning for independence. It became clear that the world of formal education could not contain her ambitions or her artistic vision. At the heart of Beatrix's struggles was a profound conflict between her identity and the prevailing norms of her time. She observed how her artistic pursuits were often dismissed as mere pastimes, not serious endeavors allotted to women of her standing. While her male counterparts were encouraged to engage in scientific inquiry and the arts, Beatrix found herself relegated to the sidelines, her interests often marginalized. This stark gender disparity in educational opportunities only intensified her resolve to carve a niche for herself within a world that was not eager to accept innovative female voices. The prevailing primitive philosophies of education contributed to a growing desire to break free from the constraints of traditionalism, a theme that would resonate throughout her career as a professional author and illustrator. In her quest for knowledge, Beatrix sought inspiration beyond the walls of formal education. She turned to the natural world, the very landscapes that had resonated deeply with her throughout her childhood. With a keen eye for detail, She explored botany, capturing the essence of plants and animals in her sketches. Her work dissecting the intricacies of nature was not just a personal interest. It became a means of asserting her independence against the restrictive structures imposed by society. This exploration provided her with a sense of purpose and empowerment. The act of observing, studying, and illustrating nature became a rebellion against the expectations that sought to curtail her ambitions. As Beatrix matured, she channeled her frustration with conventional education into her writing and illustrations, creating vibrant characters that reflected her real-life experiences. Peter Rabbit, one of her most beloved creations, emerged not just as a whimsical character, but as a symbol of the struggle against authority. The character's antics often mirrored Beatrix's own feelings of rebellion against the constraints that sought to define her. Through her stories, she could narrate her desires for freedom and independence, crafting tales resonant with themes of defiance against preordained societal roles. Beatrix Potter's journey also intersected with the burgeoning women's rights movement at the turn of the 20th century. With increasing voices advocating for women's education, the fight for recognition propelled Beatrix forward. Her own experiences within restrictive educational confines became a rallying cry for the importance of equitable access to education for women. The more she recognized her own struggles reflected within the broader narrative of women seeking agency, the more emboldened she felt to pursue her creative aspirations. Resilient in her resolve, Beatrix embraced her artistic identity, gradually breaking free from the confines of her upbringing, while paving the path for future generations of women artists and writers. By the time Beatrix became a published author, she had cultivated a robust sense of independence. The obstacles she faced in her earlier education did not extinguish her creativity. Instead, they ignited a flame of determination. Her first publication, The Tale of Peter Rabbit, became a significant success, establishing her not only as a gifted author but as a pioneer in the field of children's literature. It led her to discover a community of fellow artists and writers who began to recognize the value of their contributions beyond societal expectations. Beatrix's stories, which celebrated nature, imagination, and individuality, resonated with children and adults alike, and through her art, she championed a world where creativity could flourish unfettered by societal restrictions. In conclusion, Beatrix Potter's journey through the constraints of education and societal expectations played a crucial role in shaping her identity as an artist and author. Despite the limitations imposed upon her during her formative years, Beatrix harnessed her experiences in a manner that fueled her creative spirit rather than diminishing it. The confining environments she encountered sparked a fierce desire for independence, leading her to explore the natural world and express her individuality through her art. Ultimately, her legacy serves as a testament to the power of resilience in the face of adversity and the importance of nurturing creative expression, particularly for women navigating the unwelcome constraints of their time. Through her stories, Beatrix not only carved out her own space in the literary landscape, but also paved the way for future generations to embrace their own creative journeys, celebrating the limitless potential that resides within us all.